welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, I wanted to do a bit of a recap on all the cars I currently have here at RCKicks. It's been a busy 3 months since I last posted a video, and yeah, without telling the wife too much, I've added a few cars. So I thought you might be interested to see what I've currently got, what projects are on the go, what projects are coming, what I'm thinking to do with the car, is it going to go, that kind of things. So, kicking off, this is my Stadium Blitzer that I picked up about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a bit longer, maybe a month. Time moves so fast these days. So this was a shelf queen. It didn't have any internals, no electronics. It just sat on the shelf looking beautiful. I picked it up off eBay. The guy was selling a load of his cars. I think he was just getting rid of his whole collection. So he seemed to collect a lot of cars but not actually run them. And this was one of them. Now, it's not perfect. The body could do with a bit of attention. But the actual chassis itself was mint. It was never run. Since I received it, I put a standard electronic speed controller in it. It came with a servo and I had to put a motor in it, so I've just put in a sports tuned standard motor and receiver. I've driven it around the garden a few times, and yeah, I like it. It's really good. It's got fantastic suspension on it. I'm really happy with the suspension on it and the travel, and great on grass and things like that. So it drives better than I thought it was. I might put a slightly better servo in it to get a bit more responsiveness out of it. But I think I will end up driving this one because it was so much fun. As for the body, well, I'm tempted to try and remove all the white. I have got replacement aftermarket stickers that are pretty good. So I could just buy a new body and replace it, but this body's in actually really good condition. It was just painted quite poorly and it's very thin. So I will have a go at trying to remove all the white paint, and then I will repaint it again. That's probably where I'm going to go with this, or I'll just end up driving it and getting a re body and doing a re body that's mint, and then keeping this one for just driving. If that's the case, I will touch it up a little bit because some of the paint's flaked away, but there's no damage to the body whatsoever. As for the upgrades on the car, pretty much nothing. I won't upgrade this car at all. I'll just drive it as it is. It's just fun. So yeah, that's my Stadium Blitzer, and that will just become a driving car. I think it won't become a shelf queen, even though the car is actually immaculate. Based on the Falcon chassis, it was originally released in 1992, and then again it was re-released in 2011 on 58482 chassis. Good fun, good blast around the garden car. So that's my Stadium Blitzer. The next car I've added to the collection was the 934 GT01. This is a 1/12, so it's a little bit smaller, and it was released on the 20th of June 2009. I picked this one up second hand, so it was already built. This is not my favourite colour, but I can live with it. Ideally, I'd like to have it in box art, a bit like what's up here. This is my 1/10 scale, but this should look exactly like that one. And I think it'd be fun to have exactly the same cars, one in 1/12 and one in 1/10. What am I going to do with this? Well, like I said, I'm probably going to change the body at some point and do a body that matches the box art. I have the stickers, I just need to get the body and the tail, and then I'll paint it up the same. This one, I'm tempted to add some more stickers to this one just to make it pop a little bit more. It's a full driver, it fully runs. Good fun for blasting around the kitchen, and it just came up and it was a good price, so I thought I would add it to the collection to go with my 1/10 really. So pretty straightforward. Apart from that, I do have a slightly hotter motor that I could put in it. I'll see. But that's basically my little tiny 1/12 934. Now, some of you might recognize this old beauty. She's a Lancia Rally on kit 58040. She's getting on a bit, bless her. She's 36 years old now. Originally released back in the 21st of November 1983. So this could be older than quite a few of you. At 36 years old now. She was re-released, but it wasn't a exact re-release. It was the same body style but a completely different chassis, and that was on 58278, and that was the Lancia 37, and that came out in May 2001 and looked nothing like this. It didn't have this chassis because this car is on an ORV, which is an off-road vehicle, the Frog as we most know it. It forced them to change the wheel arches to clear it for all the suspension clearance. So obviously when Tamiya re-released it, they put it on a more appropriate body, should we say, and then we ended up with correct wheel arches that match the actual car itself in the real world, because obviously this is modelled on a real car, as I'm sure you know. What am I going to do with it? Well, it's never been painted. This is its normal plastic hard body colour. So the stickers all need to come off. It needs to be painted white, probably lacquer it. Then I need to get hold of some stickers for it. Now I did get some reproduction stickers, but they weren't good enough for me to actually want to put them on this car. So it leaves me in the position of trying to find some original stickers from 36 years ago. So whether I can actually find some, or the kind of money that people will be asking for them, and whether they'll actually still be any good. So that's the plan. I'm not sure whether I can use the reproduction stickers, or maybe some of them and not others. And then maybe I'll have a mixture of original re stickers mixed in with some aftermarket stickers. I'll have to do more research, and I'll have to look into it a bit more from that point of view. But it's a true classic, and this one is absolutely gorgeous. I've had it about a month now. From what I can make out, it looks like the original owner drove it, smacked the front, broke the front plate, and then never drove it again. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just going by the complete lack of wear, the damage that I've got with it. I do have a replacement part, so I can swap that out, and the car is back to being pretty much mint. It's really just the body that's letting it down currently. And as you can see underneath, it's in lovely condition. So it hasn't had a hard life. The bumper's all fine. It's complete with all the correct servo horns and everything. So a very loved car, or unloved, depending on how you want to look at it, whether it's just sat on the shelf, and the lights are not plumbed in correctly, so I need to fix the lights. That's pretty much it. This one is a runner. It will drive, but obviously you can imagine I'm not really going to take it out and blast it around the garden, being that it's just so old. So it's really just to sit on the shelf and be a lovely vintage shelf queen. So that's my Lancia Rally. Another car I added over the last 3 months needs no introduction whatsoever. If you do not know what this car is, where have you been? This is probably one of the flagship cars for Tamiya for many, many, many years. Originally came out on the 31st of the 3rd, 1988 under kit 58072. Now, if you can find a mint one of those, yeah, they're like hen's teeth, and they're gorgeous, and they're super expensive to get hold of. So obviously I wanted to add an Avanti to my collection for quite a while. Obviously when I was back in the day, when I was really young, when this came out, there's no way in the world I could get the funds together to pick up something that looked like this. Also, it was well out of my technical skills back then to probably build it. So I knew about the car and I admired it from a distance for a long time. When I started getting back into RC, I knew I was going to add one of these to the collection. It was just, I wanted a mint one. I wanted a really clean one. Now ideally I'd like a 1988 mint one, but I didn't want to spend that kind of money, and I didn't want to just wait and wait and wait and wait. So when this one came up for sale, I jumped on it. This one has just sat on the shelf and done very little at all. It's in mint condition. This is not sprayed in box art, it should be blue, but the owner, I guess, wanted to do a black homage, Avanti black homage, and I like the gunmetal grey. I do have a full replacement body, driver and spoiler that I will do in the box art reasonably soon. I also have original stickers waiting, so I will do a option of having a box art. I put these wheels on it. It didn't come with these, it came with the standard quick release yellowy orange colour wheels. Apart from that, I don't plan on doing anything special with it. I may upgrade the steering, but since I barely drive it, I kind of poodle it around the garden on a nice sunny day, it's probably not worth doing. I just love it for its engineering. It's absolutely beautiful. The front end on this car is absolutely stunning. So the whole story of the Avanti, it was Tamiya's attempt to get back into racing, so they brought out the 88 kit. Unfortunately, it didn't really do very well. It had big fat tires on the front, the steering was a bit wishy-washy, and it is quite a heavy car. You can adjust nearly everything, which is fantastic, but it was more of a looker and it didn't really perform that great. Some drivers put thinner tyres on the front straight away to try and help, as well as a few other bits and pieces. Then it was re-released in 2001 on the 19th of the 6th, 2001, and that was under kit 58085. Then they released it again on the 27th of the 1st, 2011 under kit 58489. There's also a black version of this, and that originally came out on the 8th of the 1st, 2012 under kit 58270. Then they re-released that again very recently on the 15th of the 12th, 2018 under kit 47390. So this is the 2011 one, and I love it, absolutely love it. I like driving it around the garden gently. And looking down the line, I would love to add a 88 and a black at some point to the collection. But there's so many great Tamiyas that I don't have, that just getting different versions of the same one, yeah, I will do. I will add to this collection because I love this car. But as and when they come up, and obviously budgets and things like that have to be taken into account. So that's my Avanti. Gorgeous looking car, and the front end is absolutely beautiful. And if you're thinking of getting one of these, get one. They're just stunning cars. I highly recommend them. The front travel was a bit limited. That was another thing. So that's my Avanti. Also, this chassis, because I had this, I then went and got myself an Egress, and I got a Vanquish, which is based on the same chassis, but this is obviously in plastic because this was a lower price point car. But that's all I currently have, as I'm trying to restore this one, because Vanquishes are difficult to get parts for, whereas Egresses seem to be a lot easier. So there you go, I digress a little bit more. Now, another car that I've picked up in the last 3 months that needs little introduction is the Egress. Now, this car is well known just as much as the Avanti was. This is built on the Avanti chassis, originally came out on the 29th of the 6th, 1989, so a few years later, and that was on kit 58079. It ran for about 3 years before they discontinued it. It's a more of a lightweight car than the Avanti. It's a bit more track focused. It's what they learned, the mistakes that they had with the Avanti, they then seem to have dialed out. Personally, I think this is almost slightly better looking. It still looks modern today, and this one obviously is in box art. They re-released it after that on the 13th of the 11th, 2013 under kit 58583. And then recently, not that long ago, on the 10th, 2018, they did another re-release of the same kit. So that's what this is. This is a 2018 body, chassis, should I say. The only difference between this one and the others is I've actually left the windows clear, where normally the Egress has blacked out windows. And for fun, I put 2 drivers in this car just because the canopy is so long, just to do a little mod and to be a little bit different. This currently doesn't run, it hasn't got a motor in it. I have everything else. It's got a servo and it's got a receiver. It just doesn't have a motor and a electronic speed controller in it right now. I will run this at some point, I just haven't got round to it more than anything. I sprayed up the body. I actually bought this as an unfinished project. It was built for me, but the body wasn't done. So I got everything that I needed. So I painted up the body a few weeks ago and put the stickers on and did a few little modifications. I just haven't got round to finishing getting it running again. So I plan to, but as you can imagine, being that it's never run, it is in mint condition. Also, I want to put a special motor in this, but I haven't decided what. It will be brush. It won't be a brushless system. It will just be a standard brush system in this one. And I, again, like the Avanti, I'll just run it in the garden gently now and again. Beautiful car, and I'm torn between whether I prefer the look of this one or the Avanti. This feels more modern to me, this look. But it's personal choice. As for an engineering point of view, they're both fantastic. Absolutely stunning cars. So this beautiful little lady is something very special. I picked up this probably about 2 months ago now, and such a good looking kit. Absolutely, just look at it. It screams 70s, doesn't it? I mean, the color scheme is bonkers. This one is even more special than you might think. This is a 934 RSR 10th anniversary from Tamiya. This is based on a TA02 short wheelbase kit, and it's one of only 333 that they actually did. It's based on the 934 RSR Black that Tamiya brought out. Then Tamiya took those kits and modified them. They also put a insert on the box and extra sheets of where the stickers are, supplied the extra stickers. Yeah, it comes with a light kit and a load of modification upgrades on this car as stock. It's lots of extra carbon parts. It came with lighting, so it has a lighting kit inside. Now this is a full running car, but it's not finished yet. There's still a few things to do on the kit. I didn't want to have the post sticking through, so I now have magnet connectors for the body, but I can't put the final position of where the body mount's going to go, because if you look closer you can see the wheels don't actually line up with the body that well, so you need to adjust the wheel track. Luckily, some people way smarter than me have figured out how to do this on this kit, and there's a really good instructions on how to do it, and I have the parts to modify it to put the wheels in a slightly different orientation that suits the body better. But obviously I can't mount the body until I do that. It's in the cards, I just haven't got around to it yet. I'll do a video on it when I actually do the modification as well. The light kit all works. I decided to pick up the more advanced unit. So this one works in conjunction. This is a TLU02 and the one that comes with the car is a TLU-01, and they work together. So why did I add the TLU02? Well, you connect this to the receiver, and then what it does is when you accelerate hard, it flashes the lights. When you turn right, it makes the right indicator flash, the left indicator. When you brake, the brake lights come on. So it's got more of a dynamic lighting system by adding one of these. I also plan on putting a driver inside this car, a driver cockpit. I have a cockpit from something else that I'm hoping to modify in. I have a seat. I also have some really good tiny little window wipers. I don't know if you can see that. So I can remove the stickers and actually put in real window wipers. So I'm waiting on a few bits and pieces and obviously the time to do it, but I want to make this, it's basically a model that you can actually control. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, Putting the stickers on this car was a challenge and it took me ages. Painting the body wasn't too bad, that was quite easy, so I was quite happy with that. Building the kit, there was a few little mistakes that I made, mainly because I was thinking about videoing what I was doing, but some people who subscribe to the channel are really good at pointing out little bits and pieces I make mistakes on, so that really helps me out, figure out why things aren't exactly right, so that was great. So big shout out to them, they know who they are. So yeah, that's my 934. So a few more mods, get the body on. It does drive, it runs as it is right now. I upgraded the wheels. These are lovely wheels, these ones. The stock tires on them. So yeah, there you go. One of my favorite looking cars, absolutely beautiful. So this is my last purchase. This is the one that I have been looking for quite a while. This is a vintage Astute in standard box art and unmolested in any way. It has been driven, but only a tiny amount in the last 30 plus years. This came out on the 13th of September 1989 and it's kit 58080 and it's just called the Astute. They re-released it on the 27th of August 1991 under kit 58097 and it was called the Super Astute. They didn't just bring out the same kit again, there was a few fundamental flaws with this buggy. So Tamiya, when they went to release the Super Astute, they decided to fix some of its weaknesses to do with the front bulkhead, the gearbox on it, and a few other bits and pieces, as well as change the battery orientation from across to down the spine of the car, and a few other bits and pieces. I can't go into them that many. I'm no expert with the Astute, but there is a guy that I follow on YouTube that I'll give him a big shout out because he's done extensive reviews on the Astute and the Super Astute, and that's RCRetro. I will post a link in the comments if you don't know him already, and he goes into all aspects of what's the difference between this car and the Super Astute and things like that. Now, when I picked up this car, I wasn't sure whether I was just going to modify it, upgrade it, or whether I was going to just restore it back to mint condition. I'm not sure, but after posting a introduction video on this, everybody says leave it alone. If I'm going to replace anything, make sure I replace them like for like. So what lets this car down is the body has a few cracks, the paint job's looking a bit tired, the rear wing was painted on both sides from what I could tell, so it's very matte. So I've managed to pick up a original Tamiya body and wing and underside. Now, as RCRetro pointed out, and I noticed, and sure enough, I've looked at mine, this is a body from a Super Astute. That's why they're still available, because there's no way you're going to get a body like this back from 1989 anymore. But it turns out Tamiya are actually stamping them out from the original mold, because on this it actually says 1989 Tamiya and it's got the kit number 58080, which is this car. So the mold that made this body made this one, which is fantastic, and that's what Tamiya really need to focus on. They need to start bringing out some of the original bits and pieces for these classics. A lot of people, they're core Tamiya fans, really need to get hold of these stickers and these parts. Anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a rant, but it's great that I can actually replace the body with an original body from this model. I've also picked up some stickers from it, original stickers. Yes, I know you're probably thinking, oh my god, how much you paid for those? Yeah, they were quite expensive for stickers, but I managed to get a reasonable deal for what's becoming super rare. Now, when Tamiya brought out the Super Astute, they changed the whole livery, so you just can't get these stickers unless you go aftermarket. Now, I could go aftermarket, but again, with this car, I would rather put originals on it. As well as the body is not too far gone, so I would rather keep this body and try and repair a few bits and pieces than put aftermarket stickers, especially on a body like this. So I have picked up some original stickers and they're on their way now. So the Super Astute came out in 1991, and then very recently it was re-released again on the 12th of January 2019 under a new kit number, which is 47381. Now, as far as I know, there is no difference between the 1991 Super Astute and the 2019 Super Astute, even though they've got different kit numbers. So you would kind of assume there is something different. Now, I don't know that. So if you know if there's any difference between the two Super Astutes, put a note in the comment to let me know, because I'd like to add a sister car to this one, and I'd like to add a Super Astute, but I don't know which one to get. I would ideally like to get a 1991 re-release Super Astute, which is like the first version. But if there is no true difference between the 1991 and the 2019, then I would probably get a 2019 and build it myself, so I have the experience of building it. Now, the next car that I've added in the last 3 months to the RCKicks collection is this little beauty. Absolutely stunning, and I've never had a Formula 1 car before. Now, I'm a Formula 1 fan myself, so I know this car very well. And this is a very famous Senna car from, I'm trying to think what year it was now. It was in the early 90s, 91, I think he won the championship in this car. I can't remember. It's around that era. So this is the Honda McLaren MP4-6 that Senna drove. This kit was released under 58104 on the 10th of March 1992. Yeah, 92. Absolutely stunning. Now, we all know that the cigarette livery was basically outlawed and banned, so I've had to source the aftermarket stickers. I only changed 1 or 2 stickers. The rest are the standard. This is actually a re body. When I got this kit, it was new in box, but someone had made a start on the actual body and it was painted really badly and it was actually damaged. So this is the aftermarket, but the stickers are original, apart from the Marlboro ones, which are aftermarket ones. It's a full runner. It drives. I've driven it around the kitchen a little bit, but it's difficult to find places where you can drive these kind of cars. This car was re-read on the 26th of March 2011 under kit 84193, and that was an F104W chassis. So that's different to this one. This is an F102 chassis. So even though the car was re-read, it's a completely different chassis. Also, the livery is different. On the re-release on the F104W chassis, it's just white with a McLaren stickers. There's no actual Marlboro colouring at all, even though the original Honda McLaren, you had the colouring, but you just had the Marlboro removed. So that's the difference, but the whole chassis is completely different. Would I add a F104W chassis? Possibly at some point, maybe. I'll keep this car. This car is absolutely stunning, and being that I'm a Formula 1 fan as well, it's absolutely beautiful. It was fun to build and fun to paint, actually. So that's my little MP4-6. I'm sure a few of you may have seen my Tamiya Falcon videos. I'll put a link up in the left hand side here. I have actually shown these on my previous collection, but things have moved on since then. I actually ended up owning 3 of them since that video, but one of them is now being sold, and I now have 2. I have my driving car and I have my Shelf Queen. So the Shelf Queen I've purchased since that last video, and this is one of my pride and joys, as it is completely brand new, never been run, rare as hen's teeth. Very difficult to find these in such amazing condition. So I have that, and then I have my runner. My runner I've covered before. This again, I've just put a new chassis on it as well, so it's in pretty decent condition, but I do drive this car. So the Tamiya Falcon has never been re-released. It came out on the 30th of June 1986, so these cars are from 1986-87. They did take this chassis and put this chassis on a few other cars. It was on the Bearhawk, it was on the Stadium Blitzer, the Stadium Thunder, and I'm trying to think, and the Blitzer Beetle. Now they've re-released the Stadium Thunder and the Blitzer Beetle and the Stadium Blitzer, but yet they haven't reread the Falcon, which is a really strange one. A lot of people that follow my channel really want this to be reread, and I must agree. You know, it'd be lovely to see these come out, because there's a lot of people that would like one of these, but they just don't want to pay the money or have the aggro of trying to find parts. Also, having a running version of one of these, you have to invest a lot of effort because they are fundamentally flawed. So to have this as a driver car, the front end on this car is over £100 in its own, probably about 150 if you start adding the braces on. So it becomes quite an expensive car if you actually want to run it. What else to tell you about this? Yeah, the strange thing was Tamiya have released a car called a Neo Falcon. I don't know if any of you have seen this. I only found out the other day, and it's running on a DT-02 chassis. Now this is under kit 58401, and this was released on the 20th of February 2008. Not overly impressed with what it looks like, and doesn't really have any direct connection as far as I can see to the Falcon. It kind of has a bit of a resemblance to it, but I don't think a lot of people know much about that car, and I've never seen one come up for sale, so I'll have to see if I can dig one up and have a look, do a bit of research. But I only found out about the Neo Falcon a couple of days ago. So these are my Falcons. I won't go into them anymore because there's loads of videos on my channels covering these cars. But yeah, lovely. Shelf Queen driver. Now this, if you don't know this car, well, I don't know what rock you've been living under for quite a while. So this is probably my most race pedigree, successful championship winning car in the collection. This is a Schumacher Cat XLS. This is the Masami edition. Masami is the name of a Japanese driver who took this car to his first world championships. So this was originally released in 1986 as a short wheelbase that won the British, the European, the Japanese, the Australian and the US championships. And Masami won the world championships in 1987 in the longer wheelbase version. So a little bit of the story, and I'll put some links in the description that takes you to much more information about this car. But originally there was a short wheelbase one which was really fast but really difficult to handle, so they stretched out the chassis a little bit, and then that's this one. Amazing car. Now the connection to me and why I have one of these is back in the day when I was driving my Grasshopper, my RC friend that I used to hang around with was a good few years older than me. He had an original short wheelbase one of these in bright yellow, and I'll never forget it. When you're driving around in a Grasshopper and your friend is blasting around in one of these and going racing, you can imagine just how in awe I used to be of this kit. Well, the short wheelbase version of this kit, and I always wanted one, but of course they were so far out of my budget back then. So when this one came up and they re-released this as a bit of a homage to it, I just had to have one. But it's been sitting on the back burner for quite a while, and these aren't that difficult to get hold of. And a good friend of mine at Tamiya Legends basically has picked up one of these, and that was it. When I saw him unboxing it and he's going to build it, I just knew I had to have one. Plus I was worried that they'd start to sell out and then they'd become more expensive, and they're not the cheapest buggy in the world as it is. So I'm looking forward to seeing his build videos. He says he's not sure whether he's going to go the classic livery or whether he's going to do the homage to Masami's car. So this one will be box art. I will do the standard box art personally regardless. It's absolutely stunning car. Now there is an upgraded gearbox that you can get for this car for running brushless, because obviously this car was designed way before brushless ever turned up. So I haven't decided whether this is going to be a shelf queen car or I'm actually going to run this. I'll only really start to figure that one out once I start building it, on how I feel about the car. I don't know, it's hard to say, but If it becomes more beautiful and I just like the look of it, then it will probably stay as a shelf queen. If I feel like I want to run it, which I kind of do want to run it to see what it feels like to drive, then that will really seal the deal. If I like the way it handles, then it will become a driver. If I'm not in awe by how well it feels to drive, then obviously it will go on the shelf and just look stunning. Now, my daily is a Schumacher Cat K1 Aero that handles amazingly well. So it might be a bit unfair for this kit that my expectations of how this drive versus a kit that's a lot newer and there's a lot more carbon fiber and things like that. But I'm hoping that this handles as well as I have my fingers crossed that it does. As for upgrades, I don't know, it's too early yet to see whether I'll do upgrades. If I drive it, then maybe I'll do upgrades. If it's going to sit on the shelf, then I probably won't bother. You can get a full carbon kit for this, and obviously the gearbox upgrade, like I said. So I don't know. I honestly don't know yet. It's way too soon, and it's in the build list, but it's way down there. So I probably won't get around to building this kit for at least another 2 months, I would have thought, purely by the amount of other projects that are stacked up in front of it. But it was more of an impulse buy, as I saw Tamiya Legends had one, so I'll just stick it in the cupboard and at some point I'll get round to building it. Something to look forward to, maybe over the winter. Well, we'll see. So that's my Cat XLS. I just wanted to cover these ones quickly. This one has been on the channel before in my previous video. The only reason I'm showing you this is it's had a few modifications and it's kind of evolved quite a bit. And this is my son's new, well, it's second hand, but to him it's new, Midnight Pumpkin Riri. The two cars, the reason we have this one is that my son and my daughter had so much fun with this car that he really wanted to have something the same. So I picked up this one second hand. The only thing this one has got that's not standard is the bumper's been changed, and it's also got some metal swing arms. But as you can see, the suspension is all rough and standard bounciness. So that's his Midnight Pumpkin, and this is my daughter's Lunchbox. This one I've been fettling a little bit. So the upgrade since stock is it's got full oil dampeners all the way around. If you notice now at the front of the car, it now has the wishbone suspension at the front, whereas if you see the camber difference between the two, that cambers in like crazy, where this one doesn't anymore. It's got the Ampro Engineering rear suspension adjustment and brace at the back, which means that the rear suspension geometry has changed, so it leans out much more, helps with the suspension to keep it nice and soft, and gets the motor away from the springs. On the actual kit, the motor sits very close to the springs, so it actually can almost rub now and again. What else is different? It's got foam in the tyres, so there's actually foam inside them. This car's been weighted, so it has weights to keep it upright more. Also, this has had a servo modification where the servo's been relocated, so the turning circle on this car is much greater than this one. So mixture of the servo being moved and doing the wishbone suspension modification, this turns so much tighter than the original stock version. This is actually lovely to drive now. The power of these two is exactly the same, and I don't plan on upgrading the motor in either of these cars because they're for my daughter who's only 5 and my son who's 10. These are ample. They're more about having fun than blasting around. Plus my daughter, if I put a more powerful motor in this, she's only going to break it. So that's just a quick overview of two Lunchbox and Midnight Pumpkin. The Midnight Pumpkin you haven't seen before, but obviously you've seen the Lunchbox before. Last but not least is this little chappy. Now you're probably thinking, why have I got one of these? This is a ready-to-run Chinese Banggood special, and the reason I have this is there is this little fella can be modified to become a little hotshot. Here's the stickers. That's a 1/24th, which is what this car is, a 1/24th stickers from MCI Racing. Also, I have all the 3D printed parts to turn this little fella into a hotshot. And that'd be an upcoming project where we modify this, and I put all the extra bits and pieces on after I've sprayed them, sanded them, to turn this into a great little homage to the traditional Tamiya hotshot. So it's a bit of a fun project, and this car is fantastic for driving. It's great indoor buggy. It's four-wheel drive. It's powerful enough. It's nippy, independent suspension, wishbone suspension, and a great little body. Obviously it's not oil shocked, but fun as they are, and I can kind of recommend them. They're not the cheapest thing in the world, but quality's pretty good and replacement parts are available. But obviously I didn't buy it for that. I bought it so I could modify it. So that's my last car that I wanted to show you. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks very much. Bye bye.